Nagato. Got no father like I'm Naruto. Keep the blade on me, Ichigo. Who really wanna go toe for toe? GTR from Tokyo. Diamonds whipping up on the stove. Lucky man like a 4-leaf clove. Diamonds wanna go invisible.
Hey everyone, this is Nagato's Adventure. Hope you guys are having an awesome day for today. In episode 6, I'm going to be showcasing on how to install Retroarch on HAN enabled PlayStation 3s, and I'm going to be teaching you on how to install your favorite classic games for your respective, classic consoles, such as the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Boy Advance, and much more in this video. I do recommend before we even get started with all of the prerequisites and all that fun stuff is to go ahead and check out my official playlist for my HAN and HAN tutorial series, so you guys could get up to date. I'm currently on episode 6, but I did release in the past week or so 5 episodes on how to get HAN and then HEN installed, and I also in previous episodes I taught you guys on how to run up backup PS3 games, PS2 and PS1. So I do recommend that you guys go ahead and check out my official playlist so we could be all on the same page for this tutorial, and you will have a better understanding on how to set this up on your guys' end. All that fun stuff getting out the way as well, if you guys could please be sure to follow my latest social media so you never forget the latest hacking guides and tutorials on my channel. My goal is to always try to drop 1 video a day on my YouTube, and the best way on how to know when I drop my latest content is of course subscribing to my channel, hitting that notification button, and as well checking out my Twitter. That's where I usually try to drop out my latest content. As well, if you want to be in the mix of things or just want to join my official community, you could go ahead and join my Discord. I will have a link in the description below, or you could just type in a link that is showcased on the screen for your respective web browser. So if you're on Google Chrome or Firefox, just go ahead and type in the URL link or just click it down below, and you can join my official Discord. Not only you can meet new people from the hacking and modding scene, as well you could get the latest hacking guides and tutorials for your favorite console, and you will have home, or basically you have access to useful homebrew with download links in my little Discord. One thing I do want to state as well is purely optional, but if you do want to support my channel in any shape or form, you can feel free to donate. I will have a link to my PayPal down below in the description, or you could just type in the URL link as showcased on the screen. Any of the money that I may receive from my supporters and fans will go straight back into my YouTube channel, or help me buy things such as a better microphone, a camera, editing and software tools and stuff like that, and it will just help me create better quality content for you guys to watch. With all that fun stuff getting out the way, we could go ahead and get started on today's prerequisites, and anything and I state right now will be in the download description below. So first things first, of course you need any PlayStation 3 system. It doesn't matter if it's a fat, slim, or super slim variant. As long as you have a PlayStation 3, you can do this process. As long as your PS3 as well is under 4.84 firmware or lower, this can be done. So let's say as of right now of August 21st 2019, 4.84 is the highest firmware, but let's say if Sony releases an update, make sure not to update your system if it's like 4.85, because most likely Sony probably patch the method on how to install HEN and HAN onto the PlayStation 3. As well, your systems need to have the latest version of HAN and HEN installed for this process. That's why I did recommend to go ahead and look through my playlist. So episode 1 will teach you on how to install HAN, and then for episode 2 it will teach you on how to install HEN. As well, you need any ROMs for its respective core that supports Retroarch. So if you guys ever used Retroarch via with a PlayStation Vita before, PC, or just know what Retroarch is, basically it has a certain cores that corresponds with certain emulators. So they have a core specifically for Super Nintendo, GBA, stuff like that. As well, I'll get into more of the cores and emulators in the next slide, but the next thing you'll need for the prerequisites is a USB stick that is formatted to FAT32, and we're going to be transferring over our ROMs that way. And as well, we're going to be installing Multiman just to put our ROMs in there, or you can run your games off a USB drive, which I'll be showing you later on in the video as well. And it's optional. I'm not going to be doing it for this method today, but you can transfer your files over with Filezilla FTP client. I'm just doing everything manually via with a USB. One thing I do want to state, or just showcased on the screen, is some of the list of supported cores and emulators for the PlayStation 3 Retroarch, and I did verify this the other day, and I went through the full list. I'm not going to read all of the emulators and cores since there are a ton in Retroarch for PlayStation 3, but as showcased on the screen right now, they of course do have like MAME, Atari. There's also like Doom and stuff like that. In this slide right here showcased, of course, you got your Game Boy Color. You also have Super Nintendo, the original NES. You also have Pokemon Mini, some cool stuff like that. And here's some, of course, most of the cores that I like. Neo Geo Pocket. You also got like the Gear system for Sega, games and stuff like that. As well, there's some cool ones for like Quake and like the Nintendo Virtual Boy. So you have a lot of cores for your emulation. So if you were trying to add a ton of games for your PlayStation 3, Retroarch does support a lot of classic titles. With all that fun stuff getting out the way, I just want to give a special thanks out to the PlayStation 3 exploit dev team, and also to the development team for Retroarch for creating a multitude of emulators into one package. So shouts out to Retroarch for creating a method so we can play our classic games on a ton of devices, from the Switch, PS3 and stuff like that. But all that fun stuff getting stated out the way, we could go ahead and get started on the PC side of things. So I'll meet you guys on the PC. Alrighty guys, so assuming that you did follow all of the steps in the intro, we could go ahead and get started on the PC side of things. So first things first, I'm going to go through all my files like I always do in all of my tutorials. So right now, the first file right here is Multiman, and this is the base version for HEN. So most likely you guys already have Multiman installed. Just assuming that you guys may not have it, that's why I'm just bringing it up now. We're going to be installing Multiman onto our PlayStation 3 so we could copy over our ROMs and put it on our hard drive. You don't have to do this, it's optional. You could just run your ROMs off your USB device, which is another method I'm going to be showing you guys once we get Retroarch fully installed. But if you just want to have all of your ROMs onto your HDD or dev_HDD0, aka your hard drive, I'm going to be showing you guys with that, and that's why we need Multiman to basically install our ROMs into one place. Of course, we have Retroarch on how to install this. I know it says KEX here, and this method does work the same with a jailbroken PlayStation 3 or a fully KEX PS3, but this method does work with HEN as well. So here is the latest version of Retroarch as of August 21st 2019. I will have a link in the description for that on how to download that PKG. And as well, I have some of my ROMs and games from my respective system. So I do recommend go ahead and make a random folder, or not a random folder, just go ahead and create a new folder on your desktop by right clicking, and just go and just name it new folder, and then just label it as ROMs in all capital letters, just like this. If you want to have a more organized setup on the way on how I'm doing it. So just go ahead on your desktop, make a new folder called ROMs, and then depending on what cores from the list that I showcased on the intro, just go ahead and find that if one of your classic games are supported via with those cores, just go ahead and make folders for those respective game systems. So I already know, for example, that all of these game systems right here, these 5, are already supported with Retroarch. So for example, GBA stands for Game Boy Advance games. If I go into my GBA folder, I have all of my Game Boy Advance games in one place, and I recommend that you guys do the same thing. So if you had your Game Boy Advance ROMs, just put it under another folder under ROMs, put all your games here. Same thing with MAME. So if you want some MAME arcade games, just put all the .zips into one folder, and such as so forth. Like I'll just show some NES games. I was just choosing random games for this process. There's no in particular order. Here's some Sega Genesis. Have some games here. And then here is for the Super Nintendo. I have one of my favorite games of all time, Super Mario World, and that's basically how you can set up your ROM. So if you were doing Atari, just create a new folder and then just label it as Atari. So, and I'll probably do this later. and then you can just put all your Atari games in there. So assuming that you guys know how to set up your ROMs folder, you put basically all of your games into one section, so it'll be easier for Retroarch to read and understand which core you're trying to set up, and it'll be easier for you guys to add on additional games. So assuming that y'all guys did get that step, I did explain these two files, we could go ahead and get started on the USB side of things. So let's go into our file explorer and let's go ahead and find our USB drive of choice. So one thing that we do need to verify first is basically if our USB drive is on FAT32. The easiest way on how to do that is just right click over your USB drive, go into properties, and then file system. If your thing is on FAT32, that's great. You could go ahead and start copying your files over those 3 files and including your ROMs onto your USB drive. But let's say if your thing is on NTFS or exFAT, we need to basically reformat our hard drive to FAT32. So if your thing is on NTFS or exFAT, what we need to do is just go ahead and back up any data if you do care about on your USB drive. So let's say you're about to format, just back up your data onto another USB drive or desktop for the time being, or if you don't care, you could still just follow along, because what we need to do is format our hard drive and it will erase all of our data clean. So we need to go back to our USB drive, click on format, assuming that's the one that's on NTFS. For your capacity, make sure it's on the highest size. Make sure your file system, if it's on NTFS or exFAT, just go ahead and toggle it over to FAT32. For your allocation unit size, just go to default allocation size. Your volume label, this is what you could label your thing as in terms of your USB. It's just a name for it. I just named mine Sony. And then make sure you have this toggled on or check mark that is quick format, and then just go ahead and hit start. You'll get a little notification and it will just state once again, formatting will erase all data on this disk. Just go ahead and hit OK, if you understand that, and then basically another screen will pop up once you hit OK. I'm not going to do that process since I already have it to FAT32, and I do want to keep some of these items on my USB drive for another tutorial I have for you guys. So yeah, but once you did it fully and it basically reformatted your hard drive, all you would have to do is just to verify that you're on FAT32 after the format is just go right click, go to properties, and then it should state that you're on FAT32. So I'm assuming that you guys did understand on how to reformat your hard drive. What we need to do now is take our 3 files, so our ROMs, also Multiman and Retroarch, and just copy it over to our USB drive of choice. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right here since it may take a little while for me to transfer. This is a old USB 2.0, so it's not a fast USB at all. But what I'm going to do is just pause the video, let it do its thing, and then I'm going to come back to the PC, showcase that all my files are there, and then we're going to transfer over to the PlayStation 3 and then get all of our games and stuff installed.
A few moments later.
Alrighty guys, I showcased here my files did successfully transferred over to my USB drive, so here are my games on my USB. What we need to do now is just go ahead and X out of our USB drive of choice. Just go ahead and click this button right here, and we need to safely remove our USB drive right now. So once it's fully done, from here what we could do is just take our USB drive, plug it into our PlayStation 3, and then we're going to go ahead and install Multiman from this method. Alrighty guys, so we're back onto the PlayStation 3 as showcased here. What we need to do now is go ahead and enable HEN first, assuming that you already have HEN already installed on your PlayStation 3. So I'm just waiting for it to do its thing, and then you should get the little notification stating that HEN has successfully been ran. Now assuming that you do have your USB already plugged into your PlayStation 3, we're going to go into Package Manager, go into Install Package, go to the third option, Standard. And now we're going to go ahead and install the Multiman version for HEN. I already have it previously installed, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit yes. As well, since we are installing HEN, we're also going to install the latest version of Retroarch for our system. So let's go back into Package Manager, install package files, go into Standard, and it may take a little while for Retroarch to install. So what I'm going to do now is just cut the video right here, wait for or basically Retroarch to fully install onto my system. Then once it's fully installed, I'm going to go into Multiman and teach you guys on how to copy and dump your games onto your hard drive. Alrighty guys, so as showcased here back on the PlayStation 3, all my data has successfully installed. So we got Multiman and also Retroarch installed to our PS3s. What we need to do now is just go ahead and scroll down, just verify that Retroarch, you see it on your PS3's X and B. But what we need to do now is go ahead and run Multiman just as any normal homebrew program. If it's your first time running Multiman as showcased here, you're probably just going to get the terms of service. Just go ahead and hit yes through all out these options right here. And then basically it's just going to install Multiman manager data onto our hard drive. So you just got to wait for a second for that. Then you're going to basically see the Multiman boot up screen. And then once it's basically done applying its theme as showcased here, you see Multiman. It's fairly simple what we have to do as of right now. So if I go ahead and scroll all the way to the left right here, go into File Manager / Multiman Operating System. Let me go ahead and close all these windows out. What we need to do is go to our PlayStation 3's root. Go to dev_USB 00, or yours may say dev_USB 006, depending on what slot you put it into your PlayStation 3. Just find whatever it states for dev_USB 0, and now you should see your ROMs into one folder. This is where the games we have on our USB. Now what we need to do as well is go to PS3 root and then dev_HDD 0, and this is where we're going to place our ROMs at. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and click one time of X right here on our USB 00 drive over ROMs, and then we're going to go ahead and hit circle on our controllers, and then we're also going to hit copy. We're going to close out this window right here. We're going to go to dev_HDD 0 and go to paste, and then it's just going to say destination already contains folder with same name. Do you want to continue and overwrite? Just say yes once again. And now right now, as showcased here, it's basically copying all of my ROMs for its respective cores. So right now, this is for the Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video right here, let it do its thing in terms of copying over all of its files. And then once it's fully done, I'll go ahead and state the next step of what we need to do for this process. Alrighty guys, so as showcased here, we basically all of the files have successfully copied over. If I go into my ROMs folder in dev_HDD 0, you can see that I have all of my games into one area. So what we need to do now is just go ahead and hit R1 on our controller, and we need to just quit out of Multiman. So that's what I'm going to do here. And now once we're back into the PlayStation 3's X and B, what we're going to do is just go ahead and run Retroarch as like we did with Multiman. And now that if you did install everything correctly, you should basically see Retroarch all into one area right now. So here is what Retroarch looks like if you never used it. It's very similar on how like the PlayStation 3 X and B is set up, and it has like, you know, the origin of waves in the back. So it does look like a lot of the PS3's UI system. What we need to do is go ahead and find our game. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and load content, and then we're going to find where our games are located at. So there's two methods on how to do this. If you remember, we put our games under dev_HDD 0, aka our hard drive. So I'm just going to go here, and then I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down till we find our ROMs folder via right here. And now we're going to go ahead and find one of our games. So I'm going to go ahead and test out a Super Nintendo, SNES, and find your game of choice in this folder. And now you get to choose what emulator you want. I think the best emulator in my case was the Super Nintendo 9X 2010. So that's the one I'm going to be doing right now. And then I'm just going to wait for my ROM to boot up. So it does take some time depending if it's your first time using this. But as showcased here, I am running you know, Super Mario World on to my PlayStation 3. Let me go ahead and turn my TV down so it won't be too loud in the background. But yeah, here is me running Super Mario World on my PlayStation 3. As you can tell, I'm on my X and B, so this is not like on an actual Super Nintendo console. So let me go ahead and hit my home button again. To back out of your games, all you would have to do is hit L3 and R3 at the same time. And now there are some options you can get as this as well. So if you want to like change the controls for the game, you can as well. If you want to also enable some cheats and stuff like that, you can. There are some also things for video shaders and all of, like, you know, in terms of if you want to add shaders. If you want to do some global configuration overrides, you can as well. If you want to rewind the game or add to favorites, I'm going to add this to favorites since it's one of my favorite games. Or if you want to take an in-game screenshot, you can right now. And then I think if I go back out to my pictures, I'm not too sure if it takes the screenshot via in Retroarch. Yeah, I think it takes it via with Retroarch. I don't think it outputs it to the XMB, but you can do all that cool stuff with that. But if you want to close content and let's say play another title, I'll show you guys on how to do that. So I did show you on how to set up your game from your hard drive. Let's say if you just want to play a game straight up off your FAT32 USB, I'm going to show you guys on how to do that. So all you would have to do is go to load content, go to dev underscore whatever basically your USB drive is located at. Mine is dev underscore USB 00. So you just got to go ahead and find your games where it's located. So here is the ROMs. I'm going to go ahead and play a Sega Genesis game. I'm going to play Outrun. And then what you will find here is to basically find a core that corresponds with your game. So I already know my game is for the Sega Genesis. I'm just going to go use the last Genesis core right here. And basically, if you don't choose the correct core, either Retroarch will boot out, or it will have like a issue in terms of, like, you know, playing the game, of course, since it's not for the correct system. But here is Outrun showcased here on, you know, the PlayStation 3. So mostly all the games work just fine. I haven't really ran into any issues playing, you know, classic you know, game titles for the older classic systems. But yeah, here is Outrun, original Sega Genesis game, also one of my favorite games of all time. I'm just gonna go ahead and back out of it. One thing I also want to showcase right now is basically how to set up a playlist. So if you go into I believe load content right here, go into dev underscore ACD0, go into ROMs again. I go into ROMs, go into SNES, or actually let me go ahead and back out for a second, because there's a way on how to basically set up playlist. Oh yeah, if you go into scan directory, go into dev underscore ACD0 or wherever you have your ROMs at, go into ROMs and then scan wherever your games are at. So I'm going to just do this directory right here, and it's basically going to find that Super Mario World is scanning in the left hand corner, and it will make a little playlist for all of my games into one title. So instead of going to dev underscore ACD0 each single every time, I could just scan the directory and it will basically pop up onto my screen. Alright guys, so I'm back onto the PlayStation 3. One thing I do want to note, for some odd reason, I'm not too sure why it's not working for me right now in terms of installing playlists. I know you could do it with the Vita and also with the Nintendo Switch as well, but for some reason I don't know if it's maybe something for my PlayStation 3 that's not working. However, there is a playlist for if your favorites. If you remember earlier in the video, I did get to install Super Mario World, and as well, let me go ahead and back out of this menu. You can also see my history playlist of all the games I played before. So I did Super Mario World, I also did Mario Advance, and I also did Outrun just now. But yeah, essentially this is how you set up Retroarch for your PlayStation 3. I am kind of sad that I couldn't show you guys on how to get the playlist working right now. I probably, if I can figure out later on, I'll make another video about it on my channel. But with that being stated out the way, my name is Nagato. Hope you guys did learn something today in terms of installing Retroarch, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.